Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, concludes the Skywalker Saga, and it also answers one of the great questions. Is anyone ever going to bring balance to the Force? And what does balancing the Force actually mean? We've got answers for you here on Screen Crush. Alright, so balancing the Force has been mentioned in several Star Wars films and TV shows, but there's never been a clear explanation of what that actually means. Was Anakin the chosen one? Why does the Force need to be balanced? And we first heard this term in The Phantom Menace, after Qui-Gon discovers that Anakin's daddy was a magic cluster of bacteria. He's so convinced that Anakin will balance the Force that his last request is for Obi-Wan to train him. Now, the Jedi believe the Chosen One is destined to destroy the Sith, but even Yoda admits that might have been a self-centered point of view.
A prophecy that misread could have been.
Now, for a while, it really did look like that Anakin was the Chosen One because he destroyed the Sith. Fans of the OT have made the argument that Luke was actually the Chosen One because he brought Anakin back from the dark side. Both of these theories hinge on the belief that the Jedi are the ultimate good in the universe and the Sith are the ultimate bad. But then, along comes The Last Jedi, which I know a lot of you guys hate. And the film says something blasphemous to an 80s baby like myself. Maybe the Jedi weren't all good?
It's time for the Jedi to end.
Luke has learned that the Force is greater than a single group or ideology.
That Force does not belong to the Jedi.
Okay, but what does that have to do with balance? There's a great sequence in Last Jedi when Luke is showing Rey how to reach out to the Force.
Yes, I feel it.
That's the Force.
Really?
Wow, it must be really strong
Oh,
with
I've
you.
never felt anything.
She feels life, death, decay, and renewal.
And between it all,
Balance.
Balance exists everywhere in nature. Death creates life, life creates death. The early Jedi understood this. In fact, in the first Jedi Temple on Act 2, there's a mosaic of the Prime Jedi, who was the very first Jedi. He's a being composed of both light and dark halves. Now, The Phantom Menace leans hard into this theme of duality and balance. Humans and the Gungans share the planet Naboo.
You and the Naboo form a symbiont circle. What happens to one of you will affect the other. You must understand this.
And the coexistence with midichlorians is explained as
life forms living together for mutual advantage. Without the midichlorians, life could not exist.
yeah, even if it does work thematically, midichlorians still suck. But the Sith are ruled by their emotions and they represent primal urges. Now what I mean by primal urges is you only exist in the moment and you don't care about anything beyond your immediate desires. So it isn't the dark side of the Force that's bad. I mean, as Yoda says,
death is a natural part of life.
What throws the Force out of balance is how the Sith use the dark side of the Force. There's a 3-episode arc of the Clone Wars that addresses balancing the Force head-on. Anakin visits this strange planet with 3 ultra-powerful Force beings. One is a brother who's fully in the dark side, a sister who's fully in the light, and a father who tries to balance them out. The dark side brother isn't evil until he becomes power-hungry and attacks the rest of his family. He becomes a threat when he overreaches and uses the dark side for his own personal gain. Now in The Force Awakens, Lord Sintaka says,
without the Jedi, there can be no balance in the Force.
This is because the Sith misuse the Force and the Jedi are a check on the Sith. The Jedi make sure that no individual ever misuses the Force for their own benefit. But as Luke points out, the Jedi don't own the Force.
That Force does not belong to the Jedi.
In fact, in the prequel trilogy, they barely serve it. In the prequels, the Jedi have essentially become a branch of the Republic bureaucracy. They take orders from the Supreme Chancellor to resolve trade disputes, and they blindly join the war against the Separatists and become generals. Remember when Obi-Wan said,
Anakin, my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy!
Now what he should have said was, I serve the will of the Force. So the Jedi's blind obedience and dogmatic approach to the Force helped the Sith conquer the galaxy, and this throws the Force out of balance. But the Jedi's biggest flaw was that they forced the members of their order to purge emotions. Anakin was never allowed to return home and free his mother because Jedi children are taken from their families when they're toddlers. That's a pretty first order move if you ask me.
I was taken from a family I'll never know and raised to do one thing.
Separating children from their families is an extreme form of becoming a nun or a priest, but instead of being married to God, your entire family becomes the Force itself. Now, had the Jedi allowed for romantic love and romantic attachment, then Anakin wouldn't have kept his marriage a secret, the Jedi would have helped him understand his visions of Padme's death, and he wouldn't have become Darth Vader, and the Empire never would have risen. Yoda even discourages Luke from attachment, telling him not to save his friends in The Empire Strikes Back.
They're my friends, I gotta help them.
You must not go.
But Han and Leia will die if I don't.
And then Obi-Wan tells him there's no use being attached to Vader because there's no good left in him.
He's more machine now than man, twisted and evil.
Now there is a middle ground between the light and the dark side of the Force, and this might sound a little interstellar, but that middle ground is love.
Love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space.
So in many ways, the Jedi are also out of balance because they deny a core part of what makes them alive, their emotions.
Compassion, which I would define as unconditional love, is central to a Jedi's life. So you might say that we are encouraged to love.
Vader's evil was born out of his love for Padme.
Where is Padme? Is she safe?
And Luke bringing his father back from the dark side is an extension of love as well. In fact, his oft-repeated phrase,
I feel the good in you, the conflict.
was even echoing his mother's last words.
There's good in him.
So in a way you can say that Luke's faith in his father is an extension of the love that he and Padme felt for each other. And I know it sounds a little corny to say, oh, love is the real balance, but love would have taught the Jedi to embrace their emotions and would also teach the Sith to harness their emotions for the betterment of others, not just themselves. Now remember, Anakin started his path to the dark side to save his family.
I will even learn to stop people from dying.
Rey and Kylo develop a bond, a connection through the Force. She learns to see him as a scarred human being, not a monster. She even tries to pull him from the dark side, and he tries to recruit her to the First Order. But this is different from the Emperor and Vader trying to turn Luke. Kylo doesn't want to use Rey or make her his servant. He wants a partner. He wants an equal. He wants balance.
I want you to join me.
Rey and Kylo embody balance of the Force. I mean, as Snoke says,
Darkness rises and light to meet it.
even though Snoke initially connected them through the Force, they remain connected after he dies. This connection shows that death and life may need one another to exist, but people are not as binary. Good can become evil, and evil can become good again. Now, in Rise of Skywalker, Ben says that he and Rey are a dyad in the Force. Basically, they're two lives who share the same frequency in the Force, like soulmates. That's why they can essentially inhabit the same physical space, even though they're far apart. And then Palpatine returns as an outside power, the ultimate imbalance. He wants to usurp the Force and use it to conquer the universe, and ultimately control life and death. So his ultimate destruction is what will finally fulfill the prophecy. And this was accomplished by Rey and Kylo joining forces, the light and the dark working together to bring the universe into balance. And it turns out that love, that pesky emotion Jedi were so bent on purging from themselves, defeated the greatest Sith Lord of all time. What do you think, guys? Were Rey and Kylo really the chosen ones, or was Anakin? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.